Previously on Thrawn's Revenge, we captured a whole load of Area 2 Authority planets. We've pretty much taken them down now, and it all went without much difficulty. There was a close call for Thrawn when he nearly got killed in a battle where a hypervelocity gun was shooting him, but he eventually got away with it. Thrawn's now preparing to go and secure the centre of the galaxy. Right now we're going to be focusing on the very right edge of the galaxy where Fleet Number 2, with the guy I've been calling Stent, is going to capture a few nice choke point planets for us to secure everything up. We're starting right here at Rhodia. This battle lasted exactly as long as it takes for a group of MMTs to drive from our starting position to the enemy base. Yes, we just stormed in and blew everything up. What a surprise. After that, we need to go down this little branch off to the right where we've got Ryloth. We'll go and attack it right now very quickly and then pop back to our choke point. This time there was fighting right out of the gate because there were Twi'leks all over the place who are hostile to us. Not that they can do very much to us, they're just firing like handguns against our tanks, but they were annoying because I didn't have any anti-infantry stuff deployed at first. They even managed to, at one point, threaten my initial landing zone. I sent most of my stuff up to just go blow up the enemy base, but a couple of Twi'leks got into the landing zone and actually managed to decapture it, mainly because my tanks were just being absolutely useless and not killing them very much. Even the flame tanks seem to have enormous difficulty killing one Twi'lek who's just standing there. Seems like there's a long delay on those flames doing the damage. There we go, but yes, the Twi'leks now own that landing point, not that it really matters. The actual Imperial forces in the area did make one little last-ditch attempt to stop us from taking the planet. They sent a load of walkers to attack the point at the bottom right of the map, which I'd captured with some commandos for no reason in particular, but I just dropped down some MMTs to blow up all the walkers, and that was the end of that. My initial army deals with their base. Now we want to move up the branch towards our final destination of Bothawui. Just 2 more planets to go, and the bottom half of the map will be pretty much secured. The land battle for Coalfish here proved to actually have some gameplay in it in a weird twist. I think it's because the enemy have the civilians on their side. Often the civilians are hostile to both sides, but in this case they're actually helping them. Plus they had a ground army here already, so we're immediately fighting some actual units, including aerial ones. You saw me bringing back my anti-air units from scouting duty to deal with that, although MMTs will suffice as well. Looks like they've actually already taken out all of the speeders, come to speak of it. Anyway, we're being bombarded with rockets. As you can see, they've got lots of rocket troops and these vehicles that shoot rockets at long range, so I was being hesitant about advancing my tanks due to the risk of those rockets actually being effective against us. I wanted to use my infantry to kite them, and for the most part this worked. The enemy did fire a lot of rockets into the infantry. The tanks moved up and quickly took out those light rocket launching vehicles. So now we've captured the area just outside of our starting position, but the spam continues. They've got tons of infantry coming in from the west, and the local civilians are proving annoying as well, even attacking our initial landing zone. We can't lose that landing zone, since while it wouldn't mean we've lost the battle, it would make things very difficult. It would mean we can't reinforce. So I want to try and protect it a bit more. I'm going to actually pull back right now. The hope was that the enemy spam would relent, but it pretty much doesn't. So we are just going to be fighting through constant waves of infantry, unlike in the usual land battle scenarios we've been facing. What I did for a while is just sit on top of a repair point with all of my vehicles so that we could get them back to full health and fight freely without worrying about them losing health. Once I got bored of that, I pushed on, and as you can see, there's still just tons of infantry everywhere. They're just not stopping. It's constantly respawning. We need to actually push in and do some damage, otherwise we'll be here forever. What I eventually did was pull down a load of flame tanks to hopefully give us some more anti-infantry power. However, I immediately ran them into an anti-vehicle turret, and one of them got blown up instantly. The vehicle turret goes down to an orbital bombardment, so that's fine now. I'll push all the vehicles back over there. There's also another vehicle turret just to the south here guarding one of the areas where the civilians are spawning, the Bothans as it actually is. I guess we're near Bothawui, so that makes sense. So here we go, I just pushed towards the landing zone over here, and looks like running over infantry is happening today. We just mowed through a load of Bothans who were standing in our way. So now we're here, we've got the capture point, but we don't have any units that can actually do capturing, and we don't have any pop cap to pull down new units. That meant something had to go, and I decided to use the flame tanks because they're just not that good, even as anti-infantry units, so I'm going to get rid of them. and with their sacrifice gained some scouting information on the interior of the enemy base. We learn that they've actually bothered to set up turrets on the perimeter. So attacking right across that river could be difficult. We'll be hit with anti-vehicle fire, and the shield stops us from just bombing them from a distance. Now I call down some commandos to go and get this capture point for us. The whole time we're being constantly attacked by infantry. You can see there are bodies all over the place over on the right. The Bothans are just respawning really fast, and while normally civilians spawn in just groups of like 3 or 4 guys, the Bothans seem to spawn in groups of like 20 and then they just human wave assault you. Pretty much like how I was using civilians when I was playing as the good guys in my last Star Wars Empire War campaign. I eventually moved some infantry up to get line of sight on this area. Now we can call in a bombing run. I was initially going to use those infantry to try and take down the anti-vehicle turret, but I saw the angle at which the bombers are approaching meant I might be able to take out the turret alongside this building. Indeed I do, and I also happen to take out the other 2 buildings that I didn't see here, so that's important, and a load of Bothans. So that massively reduced the spawn rate of the enemy's civilian allies. I think there is one more building somewhere because we see a few more of them here and there, but doesn't really matter. What I do, long story short, is go all the way around to the other side of the enemy base so I can attack where there aren't turrets defending, and this proves to be fatal because there was really nothing defending in here at all. So we get in there, do the usual, power generator goes down, the shield's gone, now we can call in bombardments and bombers to speed up the destruction of their base. Not that we need to, and we avoid fighting the turrets. I did learn though that MMTs just about outrange anti-vehicle turrets, so I could in theory take them down safely. The only issue with that plan is that MMTs always seem to miss turrets. They just can't take them down for some reason. That's their Achilles heel. No idea what's up with that. We win the battle in the end then. Our losses weren't that great. It was just a surprising battle in that there was gameplay the entire time. Surprising, but a welcome surprise to be sure, etc. So now we need to go for Bothawui, and another welcome surprise is that this place is actually defended. They've got a small space fleet, and perhaps more importantly a ground army for us to fight, so let's get into these guys. In space, we have the hypervelocity gun issue again. It's immediately going after poor Stenty, and he loses half of his health. So we need to rush to finish this battle right now, and the enemy very cheekily start moving backwards. They're running away, exactly what they should do with the hypervelocity gun on their side, so that was good of them. The first blow from the gun actually didn't take out Stent's engine, so I could have done an emergency jump to get him out before he got shot again. But I didn't, and when he did get shot again the engines went down. So now he's basically dead, one more hit will kill him. Can we get into this fleet here clustered around the space station and destroy it before the gun fires again? The battle here won't be too difficult. It's mostly small ships this fleet had, which as usual are hard to see. There's all sorts of cruisers and corvettes hanging around. I was trying to get one of my capital ships out of this battle because it was getting damaged, but it was hard to select just because there were so many fighters all over the place. I kept selecting the wrong thing and then ended up ordering all of my ships to leave at one point. It was a mess. And then there it goes again. Stent and his Ascendancy Star Destroyer disappear in a puff of smoke as the hypervelocity gun fires. We have failed. I absolutely could have saved him if I just retreated right away and let something else be blown up instead. That sucks. So we win with no other casualties, a standard easy space battle, but Stent is irreplaceable, his ship isn't, so in terms of actual gameplay we can just make another ship that's the same and that will be okay, but as a propaganda victory it's a defeat, a propaganda defeat to be more accurate then. Anyway, without him we continue on. We now need to take the ground at Bothawui and take down this ground army the Empire have for us. I immediately noticed that the Bothans are quite willing to fight the Empire, so that will keep them off a little bit, because just like in the last land battle, they are going to be spawning really quickly all over the place, these Bothans. They reproduce fast. All I needed to do was get my MMT ball together as usual and start moving towards the top of the map here. This map's kind of like an N shape, or at least it looks like that. It looks like you need to go around the top to get to the bottom right where the enemy base is, but actually all of the sea in the middle is passable. It's just a weird map like that. Here something weird happened as well. One of my rocket bikes got stepped on by an artillery piece and it turns into infantry. I guess the bike can be destroyed and you get a little infantry unit instead, although it didn't last very long. At least now we know there's enemy artillery in that area. And that did prompt me to change my strategy a bit. I split the tank ball, sending all of the MMTs off to look for Bothans in the top left of the map, while the medium tanks advance on their own to try and take out the artillery, since if they get hit and destroyed, it's not going to be that much of a big deal. They cost the same amount to replace as MMTs, but MMTs are more useful to have in the meantime, so I'd rather sacrifice these things. We do lose 2 of the tanks, but we also take out 2 artillery pieces, so that's good. Meanwhile, there's some drama at our initial landing point. Looks like some enemy infantry have captured the bunker just beside it, so I'm now going to have the land forces to deal with that. A TIE Mauler was busily killing all of the Bothans as they spawned up here, so that explained why we weren't having such a difficult time as we did in the previous fight with infantry spamming us the whole time, thanks to that TIE Mauler. Now we see another curious event. There's something strange happening with, apparently, an infantry unit. It looks like we have a guy here with 2 enemy scout bikes trying to attack him, but I couldn't actually see where this guy was. I could select it, and eventually we learn we had these 2 guys running underwater, and I think these must be rocket bike crews again. It seems that when the bike gets destroyed, you get these 2 infantrymen who you can't really control. They just run about on their own, and in this case they just got themselves killed. But it did look like before they could in theory attack enemies. Who knows what's really going on there? So we destroy this Bothan city up in the corner, and that frees our MMTs up to go on the offensive. Before I went in with the MMTs, I did some sneaky commando action. I sent a commando to go towards the position where I discovered the enemy's power generator is located. All I need to do is get line of sight, then call down a bombardment to take it out, and that's the enemy's base shields down and their turbo laser defenses made significantly less effective. Now they can only shoot where they're pointing, which is just like at the ground in front of them, meaning our MMTs are safe to spam their way in and take them out, since turbo lasers again might be something that can counter the MMTs effectively. I gave the attack order to, just go hands off and get my men to go finish the battle, but there was one last hiccup. The enemy started building an anti-vehicle turret right in front of me, and I thought, this is dangerous, please actually hit it, MMTs. Luckily, they finally did after many misses, so a potential disaster avoided there. And then it's the attack move strategy. We captured the enemy base. I was trying to bomb it and be proactive, didn't really need to. Ended up losing some rocket scouts somewhere in that fight. Not a big deal, since we can just make them pretty much anywhere. We've now got our little choke point at Bothawui then. This is quite important, since it is one of the main ways the enemy can get into our territory. The bottom right of the map is accessed through Bothawui for the most part. The enemy could also jump over to their west, making some longer jumps into our territory, but so far they just haven't tried, which is a good sign. And we've got Thrawn in the area waiting to react in case something happens. We are also, though, going to be attacked from the inside of our territory, because as you may still have noted, I never bothered actually filling in all of the middle of the map. There are still enemy places just here and there amongst our territory, and they sometimes seem to build things to attack us. So we need to deal with that next. It's probably not going to be too exciting, but I decided to go through with it. Here's the fight for this first place, Phi Thera, in 30 seconds or less. I sent some flame tanks forward to scout the edge of the enemy base where there was a landing point, but some artillery was there, and we actually lost it into flame tanks. Then I came back again using flame tanks as a meat shield to take out the artillery with MMTs. Then we captured that landing zone just outside the enemy base, after a while killing tons of infantry very slowly, and I used the points to land some more MMTs, allowing us to do the usual in the enemy base. That's a win. Next, we're going to give the Empire a bit of a break and go after the Eridu Authority. Turns out they did have some sort of space fleet still alive in the midst of our territory. It was just a few acclimators, and they don't win much acclaim in a very brief space battle. To attack the ground, I was putting together a new army, since the last one I had following Thrawn around got destroyed recently, and at the same time I built some scout droids to check out some of the planets we haven't gone to yet. And here we discover that super star destroyer that appeared once at Coruscant and then disappeared off somewhere. So that's an interesting discovery. It's on its own as well, and I thought this is the perfect chance to try out some good old troll strategies. I think some people were mentioning this in the comments somewhere. The Super Star Destroyer has difficulties attacking fighters because turbo lasers are inaccurate. So I thought, what if I make a fleet that's just loads of carriers So they'll spawn a massive cloud of fighters and we'll just send the cloud to go and fight the SSD. So, as an experiment, we're going to wait for a while and build up that special troll fleet to see how it can do. In the meantime, we'll continue following Thrawn as we conquer all of the Eriadu territory. In this battle at Chardan, the enemy had quite a few artillery pieces, which are sort of the counter to me spamming tanks, so I wanted to find a way to make sure the tanks would be safe as our attack moved towards the enemy base. I decided to try and use the scout bikes as a distraction, figuring that the artillery would just fire at the first thing they saw, so we'll have a nice, fast and expendable target to dance around here, and it seems to work. Not the dancing around really, in that I failed to dodge many of the artillery strikes, but the artillery was fixated on attacking the bike unit, meaning my attack-moving tank blob was able to come in and blow up all of the artillery pieces without getting shot. And the bikes even survived, because one of them's still alive with a few health, and there, the crew of a bike has somehow escaped from underneath the wreckage of the enemy, so that's all good. We win the battle with no losses, and right away we'll just continue on. We'll go down to this Glom place and take that as well. Then it's just a couple more planets over to the west that we need to get rid of the Eriadu folks. In this fight I made a bit of a mistake at the beginning. I built 2 anti-vehicle turrets defending our start position, but the enemy are actually spamming infantry, so this isn't particularly effective. We also learn here that in a one-on-one, one squad of my inf versus a squad of theirs is a losing battle. I think their squads are a little bit bigger than mine, or maybe they just shoot better. It doesn't necessarily matter, since we're going to kill these guys anyway. We need to push through this choke point to get to the next landing zone. But it was slow progress because so much infantry was being spammed out at us, and ended up losing all of the infantry I had leading the vehicles to the sheer volume of enemy infantry. Then I thought, well, let's just drive then, and we can drive through these infantry units, and today the crushing thing is working. However, 2 anti-vehicle turrets were constructed right in front of us, so good work from the enemy. They've actually stopped me passing through that little gateway there. Doesn't stop me forever, because I can eventually call in the bombers. The bombers even flew right over an anti-aircraft turret and totally got away with it. So down go the anti-vehicle turrets. The way is clear. I select everything, I attack move onto that capture point, and now the business should sort itself out. There was actually a bunker just south of the capture point with some infantry in it, and they did a pretty good job of attacking the tanks. I think when the infantry are in bunkers, they shoot in even faster motion than they normally shoot, so they almost kill the tank with small arms fire. The tank was able to sneak away to a repair pad. Our infantry are dealing with the infantry coming down from the north, and just generally we've now got this battle locked down. I blew up the last anti-vehicle turret that was stopping me getting into their base. Pretty good of the enemy to actually be building these things though, I must say. They didn't really bother with that before. And now we're just doing the rest of the battle on fast motion, and I just wanted to note how absolutely laggy and crazy it looks when you're doing things on fast motion in a mod that already increases animation speed. It makes the game lag and miss frames, and actually I think it makes infantry shoot at roughly the same speed, or at least it looks like it, because maybe you don't see the frames where the extra shots are coming in. Whatever, doesn't matter. So now we've moved on to the west. We've got a couple of bits of space to blow up, and neither of those provide any challenge. I'm still piling up the MMTs into my army, getting more and more of them, just because you can never have enough MMTs. That's pretty much our land strategy. The land battle for this place, Yagdul, was literally nothing. We didn't even see the enemy. They had some buildings that should have spawned garrison units, but we just never spotted them, so we just drove to their base, blew it up, and win. So yes, the easiest land battle so far, I think. Anyway, let's go and get the next one over. Maybe this time they'll resist. I think this is the last Eriadu Authority planet. They did have a small army here, but it was just light vehicles, which is the same stuff that usually spawns, so no difference needed for our strategy. The MMTs can deal with anything. But again, the enemy have bothered to build anti-vehicle turrets, which slows us down. In this case, my men were eagerly trying to attack some infantry or something, and kept advancing towards the anti-vehicle turret. It was a bit nasty, we took a load of damage. I was waiting for the bombers to show up to blow the turret up, but actually I think one of our MMTs did it before the bombs were dropped. So we wasted a bombing run. That's a shame. We also ended up driving into an anti-vehicle turret right at the end of the fight, but I don't think we lost anything in those couple of seconds of getting shot. Some flame tanks were lost overall due to the anti-vehicle turrets, but that's okay. Goodbye to the Eriadu Authority then. Now we just need to get rid of the 2 Empire planets that are hanging around in the core, and we'll have a nice smooth front line off to the east and nothing inside our territory, except for all of those neutral planets which are still sitting there, but right now aren't providing any sort of threat. I suspect that will change later on. Here's the fight for the first of the 2 Empire planets. It was a desert planet, and it was full of the Sand People and Jawas from Tatooine. I thought they were only from Tatooine, but I guess they're just from desert planets in general. They did prove to be pretty annoying because they can snipe our infantry from outside of our range, so we kept getting shot, and they were attacking us from multiple sides as well, so every time I turned around to shoot another group I'd get shot in the back. Ultimately had no effect on things because our tanks just advanced and cleared the way. I discovered a communications array, and that meant I discovered the enemy base, and that meant we can just start blowing them up. One day the AI will use one of these abilities against me and I'll be annoyed, but until then I'll continue enjoying their inclusion in the game as a nice, overpowered and quick way to get rid of the enemy base. I say it's overpowered, it's no less powerful than just sending in your own units, but it's faster, so that's nice. We had a very difficult battle with this building here. For whatever reason we couldn't damage it, so I tried firing at it from all sorts of different angles. Eventually a few shots managed to get through and took it down, but I don't know, more line of sight shenanigans perhaps damaging us there. We are victorious, so that's one of the 2 Empire planets taken down. Obviously we know the other one has the Super Star Destroyer on it, so we need to get our special fleet together first. I've got quite a lot of stuff together already. I've got enough stuff to have the pop cap filled, so we can deploy 1 full fleet at the start of the battle. I was trying here to go onto this neutral planet, but you can't even hover over them, it seems. They are, for all intents and purposes, just an empty hyperspace lane that you use for travelling in, with a planet icon in the middle of it. We'll probably get burned later on by the fact that we have all of these planets in the very middle of our empire, and here's why. This is the point in real life when someone told me there's this whole era progression thing. I ended up finding it by going through the menus in the game. So yes, when you kill certain people, it advances the era, which is kind of like the tech level, or just the general chapter of the story. There are a few scripted events that happen as you go through the eras. And the way that we can advance the era and make stuff happen right now is to take down that Super Star Destroyer by the looks of things. The next stage involves killing Thrawn, which is a bit awkward, but we'll just not tell him about that, and well, we'll see how it goes, I suppose. So this means this is the perfect time to practice our troll tactics against the SSD, since if we win, something special might happen. We'll get into that next time.